After getting my hair cut at the corner of Grand River and Losser, I began the video heading southeast on Grand River. For this video, I'll be showing Detroit's Rosedale Park neighborhood. This will be my 26th video in my Detroit series where I go through the entire city. The main thing to know about Rosedale Park as we go through the video is that there are two neighborhoods, technically, with Rosedale Park being south of Grand River and North Rosedale Park being north of Grand River. And throughout this video, we'll be making our way through both. By the way, we just passed by a Meijer store, which wouldn't be a big deal if it were most other places, but since it's Detroit, it's a pretty big deal. Let's be honest though, it's pretty sad if the most exciting news for your city or neighborhood is a new chain department store, but the reason why it's a big deal in Detroit is because large department stores and other chain grocery stores have mostly stayed away from building new stores inside of Detroit city limits for the past 5 decades or so. And that means that most of Detroit is deprived of being in close proximity to decent grocery stores and other types of shopping. This particular Meijer was built in 2015, and upon completion, it was the second Meijer store inside of the city limits, with the first one being on the edge of the city near 8 Mile and Woodward. So, Rosedale Park is different than most other Detroit neighborhoods, as it's in close proximity to a decent chain grocery store, rather than the typical trashy dollar and party stores that litter the city. There's even more to mention about this Meijer store though. This used to be the site of Redford High School. The school opened in 1921 and it closed in 2007. For several years it sat vacant and it looked like most other abandoned Detroit schools. That's until they demolished it and this new Meijer was built. Here's what the high school looked like from Grand River in 2011. And here's a shot of the property in between phases in 2013, and now back to today. Redford High School served much of northwest Detroit, including Brightmoor and Grandmont. That being said, as we've been driving along Grand River, you're probably noticing that this stretch of Grand River looks way nicer than most other main thoroughfares do in Detroit. Drive down 7 Mile, for example, or most of Gratiot Avenue, or most other stretches of Grand River, and it looks like an absolute disaster, but it doesn't here. Rosedale Park and a good portion of the surrounding area has survived the urban blight takeover that has occurred throughout most of Detroit's residential neighborhoods, and quite honestly, it's refreshing to observe and drive through Rosedale Park. It's also nice to see that the city has invested in making Grand River look more attractive through here, and it also appears to have a safer road design than most other Detroit thoroughfares. Sure, you have some abandoned older commercial buildings off of Grand River through here still, but it's a lot better than most other areas of the city. I put together this makeshift map of the surrounding area, whereas the purple shaded areas are pretty decent for Detroit standards, while the areas that are shaded in gray are not. That being said, Rosedale Park and the surrounding area might be the largest, quote-unquote, nice area of the city that's left in the residential portions of Detroit. I mean, there's other neighborhoods that are good too, and I've pointed them out constantly throughout my Detroit series for all of those who are sensitive, that being Palmer Woods, University District, and you have Boston Edison, and you have Indian Village, but most of those neighborhoods are really small in area, whereas Rosedale Park is more spread out. It's a larger area. By the way, I will also have a second video uploaded of this area of the city where I will post a video that features all of the lost footage that I filmed but didn't end up using in this video, and that will be uploaded on my second channel. The link for that will be down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. Well, let's start by talking about how this neighborhood came to be. The history of Rosedale Park dates back to 1916 when the Rosedale Park Land Company purchased a portion of this land. During the following year in 1917, the community was platted and registered with the state of Michigan. City dwellers heard about the development and they quickly flocked up here to purchase a lot with the idea of eventually building a home to live in. At the time, suburban living was unheard of, and the land surrounding Rosedale Park was nothing other than open fields. Rosedale Park might not be thought of as suburban living today, but back then it was, as it wasn't yet a part of the Detroit city limits. And surprisingly, one of the major east and west thoroughfares through Rosedale Park, Fenkell Avenue, was once called 12th Street, and the Southfield Freeway, originally Southfield Road, was called Mill Road. And there are historic articles that document the beginning of what we know today as Rosedale Park by referring to the intersection of Fenkell and Southfield as 12th Street and Mill Road. And apparently, Mill Road was an unpaved country lane with wild grapes, hedges, trees, and bushes lining both sides of the road. But today, it's the almighty Southfield Freeway, which is road rage central. Fenkell, or 12th Street, was also a dirt road, and Grand River was a narrow street with a single streetcar line. Well, moving on now, apparently Rosedale Park had a slogan titled as "Out of the Smoke Zone, Into the Ozone." That slogan was probably inspired from the fact that the city at the time was heavily polluted with all of these new automobiles, and with how Detroit had all of these industrial factories that were tightly compacted in a small area that was shared with just under 1 million residents. Living away from the city in a place like Rosedale Park must have been like a breath of fresh air. The first residents of what became Rosedale Park were Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Barkley, who moved into a home at the corner of Ashton and Chalfont, which is where we are right now. The rest of Ashton, or all of the homes that you see right here, along with the next street over to the west, that being Rosemont, were the first blocks to be developed, while the rest of the area stayed as grass fields. Over time, residents opted to pay the city of Detroit for firefighting services. In 1924, another large wave of new homes were being constructed in Rosedale Park, and in 1925, the neighborhood was annexed by Detroit. And at this point, residents of Rosedale Park no longer had to pay extra for fire protection. However, several residents at the time were noted to be upset, as they once again had to pay a high tax rate to the city of Detroit. We're now entering what is known today as North Rosedale Park, which isn't the original Rosedale Park, as all of that is south of Grand River, but anyway, as time went on, more homes were being built in Rosedale Park, about 1,600 of them to be exact. In 1998, Rosedale Park changed their slogan to "Small Town Living in a Big City." And in 2006, Rosedale Park was added to the National Register of Historic Places. And of course, the Historic District consists of the original Rosedale Park south of Grand River, not the area that we're in right now. And at this point, you're probably looking at these well-kept, large, beautiful homes and thinking to yourself,
"There's no way that this is Detroit. Every time I see Detroit on the news or on YouTube, it's a bunch of abandoned houses."
Well, not here. Rosedale Park has done pretty well for itself over time, as you can see, whereas most other Detroit neighborhoods have not. And as I've said before, it's refreshing to see how nice Rosedale Park looks today. When it comes to the economic stats for North Rosedale Park, the neighborhood is home to just over 4,000 people, and the median household income is $68,000 per year. 40% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $144,000. When it comes to the crime rates, unfortunately, North Rosedale Park still sees more than double the amount of the national average for violent crime, and the property crime rate is higher than average as well. Niche.com ranks the public schools as a D+, as the neighborhood is served by Detroit Public Schools, so that shouldn't be a surprise. Area Vibes rates the neighborhood as a 60 out of 100 for their livability score. Overall, those numbers look like heaven compared to most other areas in the city, but obviously it could still be better. And you hate to see that violent crime is still as high as it is here, and of course, these homeowners still pay Detroit taxes, which are among the highest in the nation. Most of the homes that were built in the North Rosedale Park neighborhood were built around the same time as the ones in Rosedale Park were built, which is around the mid-1920s. Anyway, both Rosedale Park and about half of North Rosedale Park are a part of the 48223 zip code. This zip code also includes the worse-off neighborhood of Brightmoor to the southwest. And for a video on Brightmoor, make sure to check out my Detroit playlist, as Brightmoor is a pretty sad-looking neighborhood. Anyway, as a whole, the 48223 zip code is home to just over 25,000 people, and the median household income is $38,000 per year. 18% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $75,000, while the poverty rate is 28%. A look at the overall stats for the whole zip code makes Rosedale Park look worse than it actually is, and it makes Brightmoor look a lot better than it actually is. Even weirder is that the post office for the zip code that serves Rosedale Park is right in the middle of Brightmoor, so I'm sure that Rosedale Park residents love having to head on over to Brightmoor, aka Blightmoor, for their post office needs, which is a little bit of a change of scenery from their otherwise nice-looking neighborhood over here. And as we head north past McNichols, we are technically out of the North Rosedale Park neighborhood, and we are in some surrounding neighborhoods instead. These neighborhoods don't really have a name, but they're still pretty decent looking, although maybe not as nice as North Rosedale Park. But with that said, we're going to skip the footage ahead to where we're back in North Rosedale Park heading south. And here we're just going to turn through some more streets and see more of North Rosedale Park. This street is named after A.J. Stehellen, who used to own much of the land where Rosedale Park sits today. Stehellen lived in a home that used to sit at the intersection of Stehellen and Fenkel. He also had a nursery at what is now the intersection of Grand River and Fenkel. And once again, I'm going to skip the footage ahead to where I'm heading south on Glastonbury from McNichols, and if you wish to see all of the footage that I filmed but didn't use in this particular video, make sure to check out my second channel and stay tuned to that. It is called Chris Harden's Travel Archives, and eventually I will have the lost footage video from this area of the city uploaded on my second channel. And now we're heading south of Grand River and we're going back into the original Rosedale Park neighborhood. When looking at the economic stats, there are just over 3,000 people that live in Rosedale Park today. The median household income is $63,000, and 35% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $144,000. So basically, you can see that Rosedale Park is nearly identical to North Rosedale Park when it comes to the economic stats. Some people will casually refer to both neighborhoods as Rosedale Park, whereas others will bark at you in comment sections of YouTube videos and tell you that you're clearly not from here because nobody does that. Some more Detroit neighborhood fun as we are now in Grandmont number 1. This neighborhood is bounded by, generally speaking, Linden to the north, Southfield to the east, Schoolcraft to the south, and Piedmont to the west. The economic stats for Grandmont number 1 are pretty similar to those of Rosedale Park. However, it's much smaller. Only 1,700 people live here, and the median household income is $64,000 per year. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $94,000, and 20% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher. Why is it called Grandmont number 1? Well, that I don't know, and if you know, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. There's a separate neighborhood called Grandmont with no number after it that neighbors Grandmont number 1 to the east, but that's all I could gather. And this, by far and away, is going to be the sketchiest looking street that we see in this video. Oh, and hello there again, Grandmont number 1. Long time no see. And now we're back in the Rosedale Park neighborhood. Well, I continued my drive around this area of the city, and I'll be uploading all of the extra footage on my second channel, so make sure you check that out through the link down below. While doing so, I saw some other interesting areas of Detroit, such as Old Redford, which is most notably home to the Redford Theater, but I'll be showing all of that in my next video as well within my Detroit series. I also came across some more abandoned blocks, primarily in areas that surround Schoolcraft and I-96. So if you're one of those that enjoy seeing the empty areas of Detroit, make sure you check out my second channel through the link down below. Meanwhile, I do end the video here. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell and select yes, so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you saw here can be found in my Detroit playlist or in my Michigan playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace!